9 years ago, Pete Docter and the artists at Pixar came out with a highly imaginative film that looked into what goes on inside of our minds with Inside Out. Now we return to Riley's head in a sequel appropriately titled Inside Out 2. Stepping into the director's chair this time is Kelsey Mann, a longtime story supervisor at Pixar and a storyboard artist on several Cartoon Network series. Jumping ahead a bit to Riley's teenage years was the understandable route to take with a sequel, and I think Mann and the rest of the creative team have done a great job of continuing her story as well as the emotions. What I really like about the first movie is its creativity with the depiction of the mind, and the sequel expands on that. It makes sense that some aspects will be different, with Riley changing, and Inside Out 2 does what any sequel should do, which is to take the characters to new places and find ways for them to evolve. It would have been easy to take Joy back to square one, but we see how she learned from her experiences in the first movie and has taken those lessons to heart as she tries to make what she feels are the best decisions for Riley. Her chemistry with the other emotions is well portrayed here as they bounce off each other exceptionally well. Most of the first film was primarily centered on joy and sadness, with occasional check-ins on anger, fear, and disgust. This time, those three are given more to do, which allows for more comedic scenarios to happen with them, and also a bit more exploration into their clearly defined personalities. Regarding the new emotions, they manage to stand out in their own way. The leader is Anxiety, who has some interesting dimensions to her. She takes control of Riley, and we see the major effect this has. Another movie might have turned her into an outright villain, but she's more of an antagonist here, which I think makes Anxiety a lot more interesting, and the arc she goes through becomes fascinating to watch. The other new emotions, envy, embarrassment, and ennui, provide their own enjoyment, with the latter getting some notable laughs for her depiction of boredom. As for Riley, I really liked how the movie developed her and her changes as she turns 13 and experiences those growing pains. That allows the filmmakers to take the world inside her mind to plenty of creative places. I like how the film emphasizes how she acquires her personal beliefs and how that drives her. She becomes her own character separate from the emotions, and her own story is just as involving as what the characters inside her mind are going through. Mann and the writers and story team don't just rely on many of the familiar places from the first movie. They came up with some new imaginative parts of her mind, with some of the funniest moments happening when the emotions meet a character from a preschool show. He really does feel like something out of an animated series aimed at a younger demographic, specifically the ones that talk to the audience. There's some hilarious gags related to him, and there are other funny characters that pop up, which I won't spoil for you. The number of clever visual jokes are plentiful, using our knowledge of certain phrases to great comedic effect. I laughed quite frequently during Inside Out 2, and it's primarily because of the visual gags the Pixar artists came up with. This extends to the character animation. Anxiety has the look of a Muppet, and that's reflected in how she is animated, and a lot of the other emotions have plenty of energy too. Someone whose work I want to shout out in the movie is the editor, Marissa Horowitz. The movie does a great job of switching between scenes of Riley, her headquarters, the rest of her mind, and even the minds of other characters. These sequences successfully blend together and allow everything to flow really smoothly. Inside Out 2 also explores its themes with a proper understanding and sympathy for what Riley is going through. Much like Domichi did on Turning Red, it mixes the humor and heartbreak of growing up and becoming a teenager, as it feels like the entire world is changing in dramatic ways. Anxiety is not an enjoyable emotion to have, and the filmmakers use that universal feeling of being nervous and uncertain about the future and whether the choices we're making are the right ones. They tackle it beautifully through Riley's arc and the way Anxiety controls her to have these thoughts during this strange point in her life. The voice acting continues to be on point, although I guess I should bring up the few recasts. Instead of Bill Hader, we have Tony Hale voicing Fear. Because Hale does have a distinct voice, different from Hader's, it's already immediately obvious it's someone else in the recording booth, but he nonetheless does a good job of capturing the character's, well, fear. Meanwhile, Mindy Kaling is replaced by Liza Lapira, but I thought she nailed disgust, and I was never once reminded that it was someone else doing the voice. Overall, Inside Out 2 winds up a more than worthy follow-up to the first film with several hilarious scenes, but also a good number of meaningful moments that enrich these characters. I find in general I like the sequels Pixar has produced because the filmmakers at the studio have a habit of creating endearing characters who I'm happy to spend more time with. And while people like to refer to a so-called Pixar formula, each franchise they produce does feel distinct in their worlds and the concepts they seek to explore. Whether it's a world populated with sentient toys, the series about superheroes who just want to be given the right to help people, the cars either living in the fast lane or slowing down, or a girl trying to navigate the world is aided by the emotions in her head. That's why I always look forward to whatever the studio with a hopping lamp is producing, and Inside Out 2 represents another delightful animated film I'll happily return to again.